Yo, what's good? My name is Reginald, aka the Art Star, aka Mr. Straight Fire, and this is Unabashed Reggie's reaction, breakdown, analysis to Eminem's Walk on Water.
I walk on water.
Why are expectations so high? Is it the bar I set, my arms I stretch, but I can't reach? A far cry from it, or it's in my grasp, but as soon as I...
Before we start, remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, go on my Facebook and like my page. And as you may know, I have a Patreon page and something new. Now for all Patreon supporters, I put the whole verses with the rhyming scheme highlighted. So if you're interested in that and want to show your support, head over at patreon.com/unabashedlyreggie. And one more thing, I've started a partnership with EminemBase.com. If you're an Eminem fan, go there to get all your Eminem news, and there will also be a section for Unabashedly Reggie where you'll find all my Eminem breakdowns, links in the description below. On to the song. Walk on Water was released on November 10th, 2017, and is the first single of Eminem's Revival album. It features Beyoncé, was produced by Rick Rubin, and co-written by Skylar Grey. According to Eminem, the song is about mortality, not being Superman, and what if he can't come up with his best stuff. That's what he talked about on the Broken Record podcast with Malcolm Gladwell and Rick Rubin. I urge you to go listen to that episode. It was really insightful. Plus, I think the song is about the way we see artists or athletes as godlike figures who do amazing things. Walking on water is a miracle the Bible says Jesus has done, but then Beyoncé sings, but only when it freezes. That's to say, as much as you think I'm doing miracles, it's nothing a normal human being can do. We put them on such a high pedestal that we forget that they're human just like us. And all that reminds me of that last verse in Sing for the Moment, where he talked about kids idolizing their favorite rappers and we're nothing to you, but we're the fucking shit in their eyes. Beyoncé is amazing on that song, as always. I don't think many singers would have made a better rendition of that hook, and I really, really love that song. When it came out, I listened to it the whole weekend. It had been a while since Eminem released a song that I instantly fell in love with. The bare instrumental is amazing. The fact that there's no drum, it's the piano that dictates the flow in a way, because the piano hits on every beat, which serves as a metronome. That's what gives a tempo. Also, it makes it feel like it's more spoken word, yet he's still flowing by following the rhythm of the piano for the most part. Now, some people will say, oh, he's not taking a risk with that song. It's generic. Like, really? Making a rap song with just a piano? That's a big risk in my opinion. And being so personal and so sincere with his fans, that's something you rarely see an artist do on this stage. And the flow, although it's similar to other recent songs, on this one, it just fits perfectly. I don't know why, but actually I think it's because of the lack of drums and it doesn't feel, quote unquote, choppy. And it's one of the songs really that has touched me the most, because like a lot of fans, I've been very critical of the way he's been rapping lately at times, and knowing that he's heard our complaints and himself admitting that it hurt him so bad to the point where his confidence was damaged, it made me feel bad. I felt guilty. Also because he says how much he's trying and trying to come up with his best stuff, yet we're never satisfied because we compare it to his old stuff that are simply masterpieces. And as far as relating to the song, I think you don't have to be an athlete, you don't have to be an artist, anything to relate to that song, to the feeling of always having to live up to someone's expectation. It could just be, if you're a great friend to someone and you're always there for them, you know that you have to always be there. And that one time if you're not able to be there, then that'll hurt you because you know you let them down. Or if at work, you're really good at your job and every project you feel that pressure of doing as good as you did in your previous project. Now, think about that feeling and multiply it by 1,000,000. That's what Eminem feels. And I don't know, this is just something that I thought really, really touched me in that song. And I really love that song. It's a great song. Now for the breakdown, what I usually do is I highlight the rhyme schemes and give an explanation or my interpretation of the content. The first verse is about how hard it has become to write because of all the expectations and how he's having a hard time with the fact that no matter how much effort he puts into it, he can't please the fans. He can't please us. This verse is particularly shorter than most Eminem verse. It's only 12 bars. He uses different patterns in that verse, but the main ones are a 3-syllable rhyme with the I, ap, ac, or ee sounds, just like in I grab squeeze, and the other one would be a 4-syllable rhyme like in dark eye plummet. Why are expectations so high? Is it the bar I set, my arms I stretch, but I can't reach? A far cry from it, or it's in my grasp, but as soon as I grab squeeze? I lose my grip like the flying trapeze. Because he talks about setting the bar high for our expectations, he creates an image to describe how he feels with a simile to a trapeze. A trapeze is a short horizontal bar hung by ropes or metal straps that we can see in circus acts where performers will swing from it in the air and move from one to another. Back to what he's saying, he feels that either he can't satisfy us, the fans, or when he's close, when he's got a hold on that bar, he slips and falls and fails to meet our expectations. Also, interesting fact, the trapeze is officially the last performance of a circus show, so that goes with the whole theme of the curtains closing, the end of the road, and mortality of the song. Into the dark I plummet, now the sky's blackening, I know the mark's high butter, flies rip apart my stomach, knowing that no matter what bars I come with, you're gonna harp griping, that's a hard Vicodin to swallow, so I scrap these. And when he says scrap these, you hear the paper being torn and crumble, so it gives him even more effect to the song. Something that Eminem has been doing in the past few years is breaking down words to fit a pattern. An example here, he broke down butterflies to have butter rhyme with plummet or stomach. One of the moments that hit me the most were those lines, knowing that no matter what bars I come with, you're gonna harp gripe. To harp is to continuously dwell on something and gripe is to complain. The reason why it hit me because it made me feel so guilty since in the past few years, like I said, I've been part of the fans who are often not fully satisfied with the material he releases. So to know that those complaints did that to him, man, I've said it before, I felt bad and guilty. Also, I like how he said hard Vicodin to swallow. The expression is usually tough or hard pill to swallow, but because of his history with Vicodins, a drug he's rapped about many times, he replaced pill with Vicodins. As pressure increases like cat keys, I feel the ice cracking. Over here we have homophones with the simile. The homophones being increases and increases. Creases just like what you see on pants that are wrinkled, and cat keys are a type of pants. Then he ends it with feeling the ice cracking. That goes with the hook. In other words, he's been walking on water looking like a god, but he feels this image of a god is fading, therefore the ice is about to crack, and he will reveal he's just a human. In terms of flow, that's my favorite verse of the whole song because he rapped in chunks of 4 to 5 syllables and that gave a nice rhythm. Before we get to the second verse, please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, go on my Facebook page and hit the like button. And finally, if you'd like to support me, go toss me $1 on Patreon. Links below. And now, on to the second verse. The second verse adds to what was said in the first one, but he goes into specifics. It's about how he feels about his writing and how his confidence has been hurt because of what the fans are saying and how he now sees himself. And I don't know if you noticed, but during the hook, you can hear him say the beginning of the verse, the curse of the, like he's writing the verse and trying to come up with the best version possible. Let's check it out. It's the curse of the standard that the first of the Mathers disc set, always in search of the first that I haven't spit yet. Will this step just be another misstep to tarnish whatever the legacy, love, or respect? Another misstep, love, or respect? Something interesting about the rhymes in this song. All the verses start with rhymes with the S sound, just like those first 4 bars. Also, with tarnish in the 4th bar, it introduces the main rhyme for the next few bars. What Slim is saying here is pretty simple. It's blatantly saying that because of the first Marshall Mathers LP's success and critical acclaim, he fears that whatever he comes up with next might affect his legacy. So all the success early on ended up being a curse because he has to follow it now. Also, that might just be me, but in Standard, you have Stan, which is arguably one of his best songs, and something that he sort of acknowledges in the outro. Now, speaking of which, I'm not going to break down the outro because it was so short, but I have to say this. I just love that he knows that Stan is his best song, and that's why he said, "Bitch, I wrote Stan," to remind us that he's the guy who did that amazing song. And in my mind, it's not only his best song, but it's one of the greatest songs in rap history. So to possibly write your best song in your sophomore album, that's really putting the bar very high early on. And if you push it further, Eminem fans are called stans. So we've also set the bar really high. And one more thing about that first line, a little wordplay with the word set. He's using it as a verb, but you can also see it as a disc set. A set of discs, since there were 2 Marshall Mathers LP albums. Moving on. I've garnered. At this point, the end rhyme changes around garnered. The rhyme has to be perfect, the delivery flawless, and it always feels like I'm hitting the mark till I go sit in the car, listen and pick it apart. For those 2 last lines, he interjects a different scheme, and it's a beautiful 4-syllable rhyme. Hitting the mark, sit in the car, pick it apart. Here's when you start sensing that he's losing his confidence because he listens to his own music and he's never satisfied because he thinks that we won't be satisfied. So he's his own worst critic, and that also highlights the level of perfection he's seeking. Like, this shit is garbage. God's giving me all this. Still, I feel no different regardless. Kids look to me as a god. This is retarded. If only they knew it's a facade and it's exhaustive. Notice a god and facade. And throughout those lines, there are alliterations with the S sound. But look at this one. It's a facade and it's exhaustive. And what's being said here is very interesting. He almost feels ashamed of being looked as a god, and this facade could actually be the song Rap God. And really, this whole song is the opposite of Rap God. It's about not feeling like a god. So he's saying that although he made a song called Rap God, he doesn't feel that way, mostly because of his confidence dwindling away. And that line's, God's giving me all this, still I feel no different regardless, is one of the most sincere lines he's ever spit. All this means all the fame, accolades, respect, and talent. With all that, he still feels like a normal human being, a mere mortal. And I try not to listen to nonsense, but if you bitches are trying to strip me of my confidence, mission accomplished. I'm not God sent. Nas, Rakim, Pac, Big, James Todd Smith, and I'm not Prince. James Todd Smith is the real name of LL Cool J, by the way, which is somebody that actually inspired Em to write his first verse. Here I think he's saying that he tries hard to stay away from all the negativity and the hate, probably the criticism found on social media, but he still ends up finding out what some people are saying and it affects him. And that's similar to Kings Never Die when he says, why am I online? It's driving me crazy. And those last lines, it's pretty much him saying, great, because of you, now I don't even feel like I belong in the same breath as these legends, and I'm not a god. The last verse is a sum of the previous ones. It's a realization that times have changed, that there might no longer be a place for him in the current state of the rap game. Actually, that verse echoes the same sentiment as Kings Never Die when he acknowledges not being on top anymore, but vowing to keep rapping no matter what. Let's go. It's true, I'm a Rubik's, a beautiful mess. You see here, he chose not to say the whole thing, Rubik's Cube, although cube would fit perfectly with the oo sounds. This is a technique called an ellipsis, where you just choose to leave one or more words that aren't necessary for a phrase to be understood. And by doing that, it creates a pause and adds to the reflective tone of the whole verse. At times, juvenile, yes, I goof and I jest, a flawed human, I guess, but I'm doing my best to not ruin your expectations. I love the rhyming of beautiful mess and juvenile, yes. These are my favorite type of rhymes because they just flow naturally, like they could be heard in a normal conversation. The whole song is like that, and that's why it's so brilliant, since it's not just rhyming for the sake of it. Also, when he says, at times, juvenile, yes, he must definitely be talking about a song like Fact. Expectations and meet 'em, but first the speed 'em verse, now Big Sean. Internal rhyme here with meet 'em and speed 'em. And at this point, the end rhyme changes for the on sound. That line can be interpreted in two ways. One, he's hinting at the complaints people have had on his Beat 'em verse and his verse on Big Sean's No Favor song. But the other interpretation is that he's saying people feel like he got outshined by both of these songs. The reason why I think this interpretation is valid is because he said now Big Sean instead of now Big Sean's. Because of that, he's not referring to the song, but maybe to the actual performance of Big Sean. So he might be saying now people think that Big Sean too had a better verse. He's going too fast. Is he gonna shout or curse out his mom? There was a time I had the world by the balls eating out my palms. Every album songs I was passing the fuck out on, and now I'm getting clowned and frowned on. Here's such a subtle, forcible rhyme. Verse now Big Sean and curse out his mom. Because of the pause he took, I didn't even notice that dope rhyme until I sat down to break it down. That explains the sort of uncommon wording of the sentence. It was done for rhyming purposes, as he always does. Those bars reveal how much he's in tune with what the fans are saying because he goes into specifics, going too fast, something that maybe in some of his last verse he's done too much of, or the shouting, which was the main complaint for the Recovery album, and of course his mom as a recurring topic. On top of that, Eminem lets us know his confusion because in the past when he would go hard and just spit to what he refers to as spazzing, he would get praised for it. But now, when he does so, people will criticize him for doing too much rappity stuff. So that's where the confusion comes from, because before he had the world eating out of his palm, which means that everyone liked whatever he was doing. So you can definitely feel and hear the frustration in those lines. But the only one who's looking down on me that matters now's Deshaun. Deshaun is Proof, whose real name was Deshaun Holton. And that line goes with his verse on Yellow Wolf's Best Friend, where he talks about Proof being sort of his guardian angel and a source of strength. By the way, I did a breakdown of that verse, so go please check it out on my channel. Am I lucky to be around this long? Begs the question though, especially after the methadone. Here he could be questioning how come he's still alive or how come he's still able to rap. Then he mentions the methadone. That's a reference to his song Deja Vu, where he talks about his methadone overdose that almost killed him in December of 2007. Thank God he's still around with us, right? As yesterday fades and the Dresden home is burned to the ground and all that's left of my house is lawn, the crowds are gone and it's time to wash out the blonde. You see, with Question though, Methadone, and Dresden home, he moved away from the established pattern for just those two bars. If you're wondering, the Dresden home is the iconic house that was featured on both the Marshall Mathers LP albums. That's one of the houses he grew up in Detroit, and it was on the Dresden Street. But that house was burned down and then completely demolished in 2013. What's so great is that he's using that house as a metaphor for his career. That house represents his heyday, his peak of success, because it represents the Marshall Mathers LP. So the house being gone is a symbolism of yesterday fading. And to me, washing out the blonde is kind of like a performer or even a superhero removing his costume and putting it away. Moreover, when he raps, the crowds are gone, it's not just about his popularity, but it's in the literal sense too. That house had become some kind of landmark in Detroit, since people would gather around and take pictures of it. But the house being gone, so are the crowds. Sales decline, the curtains drawn, they're closing the set, I'm still poking my head from out behind. Here, notice, closing the set, poking my head. And everyone who has doubt remind, now take your best rhyme, I'll do it, now do it 1,000 times. Now let him tell you the world no longer cares or gives a fuck about your rhyme. Not only is he saying that every time he wrote something, he tried to outdo it over and over, but he lets us know the burden of living up to our expectations and his own standards and what it's like to be Eminem. Like, hey, imagine having to do better than what you did before, but having to do it 1,000 times. And the line after that is his realization of the current state of rap, where rhyming and lyricism is just not as important as it used to be. So while he tries to perfect every line and every rhyme, he realizes that today, no one cares about his rhyming skills anymore. And if you listen to his interview on that Broken Record podcast, they talk about his frustration with some of today's rap, like mumble rap. And as I grow out of sight, out of mind, I might go out of mind. Mind refers to his actual mind, so he admits that when he's no longer seen and people are no longer thinking about him, in other words, his fame and status go away, it will drive him crazy. Again, this love-hate relationship that he's always had with being famous. Because how do I ever let this mic go without a fight when I made a fucking tightrope out of twine? But when I do fall from these heights though, I'll be fine. I won't pout or cry or spiral down or whine, but I'll decide if it's my final bow this time around. What an assonance with all these ow and I sounds. Beautiful way to close out a verse. Before we get into the meaning, check out this scheme of mostly 5-syllable rhymes. I grow out of sight, might go out of mind, might go without a fight, tightrope out of twine, spiral down or whine. Twine is just a string made out of fiber, so making a tightrope out of twine is a metaphor that means that he was able to take something not very strong, like perhaps his difficult childhood or being white, which was a disadvantage being a rapper, and turn it into a tightrope, which could be a strong, successful rap career. And falling from these heights, which is the peak that he reached, continues the image of walking a tightrope. In addition to that, this adds to the show circus act theme because earlier he referenced a trapeze, now a tightrope, and he talked about curtains being closed and taking a final bow. What a very introspective, powerful, and sincere song. My favorite type of Eminem songs. Holy crap, good job, Slim. So that's it. That's been my breakdown, analysis, reaction to Eminem's Walk on Water. Remember to like this video, share it, go on my Facebook page to like it, and go on my Patreon, and please leave a comment below if you have a different interpretation or if you have a suggestion. So, until next time, thanks, it's been real.